Hi, my name is Sean Miller, and this is a brief introduction to this channel and what it's going to be about. I'm a former professor of literature. I have a PhD from the University of London, and my doctoral thesis was on theoretical physics, if you can believe it, even though it's a literature degree. I was looking at theoretical physics from a literary critical perspective, and my doctoral thesis was published by the University of Michigan Press. This is it right here. It's about string theory, and I've also written books. I've written parody and middle grade fiction. This book I wrote and published a couple of years ago was an Amazon bestseller and continues to sell pretty well. It's a parody of the Wimpy Kid series. I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm 56 years old, the father of two daughters, aged 4 and 15, and about 2 years ago, I essentially diagnosed myself with complex PTSD. So if you're familiar with that or not familiar with it, it has to do with childhood trauma. So one of the symptoms of childhood trauma is what you could call minimization, which is we often, as a way of adapting, minimize the extent of the abuse or neglect that we experienced as children, especially young children. And that's kind of baked into the stories we tell about our childhood. And 2 years ago, I stopped doing that. And that's a story in and of itself that I won't get into here, but it basically unleashed a dam of feelings that I had buried away from my childhood that came pouring out, and I realized that the extent of the neglect and abuse that I had experienced as a child was a lot bigger than I had told myself it was. And I went into therapy, and I've also been doing a kind of intensive self-exploration, therapeutic and otherwise, around this situation of having childhood trauma, extensive childhood trauma. My biggest influences in this journey have been Pete Walker in particular, and also Richard Schwartz and what's called internal family systems. So this channel is dedicated to both parenting and what I'll call reparenting or self-parenting, which is what I found to be a very powerful method for recovering from childhood trauma, growing as a person, fulfilling my potential as a human being, feeling like I have a more integrated sense of health, self and health, mental health, and also just being a better father and parent to my kids. And they kind of work hand in hand. There's an interplay between parenting and caring about being a good parent and being a good parent to myself. So that's what this channel is about, and I'm happy you're here, and I look forward to sharing this exploration with you in the coming videos.